again, and welcome back to Viewpoints on the Line. We're going to go on to subject matter number 2. Before we do so, let's go now to Andy on line 4. Hi, Andy. You're on the line.
Yeah, hi, Christine, and hello to all your guests there. You're fabulous. Anyways, very quickly, Golda Meir, my greatest female hero, okay? Anyway, she put it very succinctly. The Palestinians never missed an opportunity to miss an opportunity, and then close brackets for peace. That's all I have to say.
Andy, thanks for calling in. To be honest with you, I feel we were talking about the Palestinians during the break, and for the Palestinian people, I feel badly for them. I understand they're caught in the middle. Hamas has used them to their advantage, hiding behind these innocents as human shields. On the other hand, there's a reason why we're not hearing from neighbors like Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, and that's something I want you to address.
Well,
this is big for you.
It's pathetic because these are the innocent people who are basically betrayed from both sides by their own people because of the infighting between the political parties.
Well, the Sunnis and the Shiites.
Yes, and not so much the Sunnis and Shiites there, because they're not, that crisis that doesn't exist as much as the two parties, Hamas and Fatah.
Yes.
And of course, one thing that you have to also understand in terms of the election of Hamas, that when Islamist parties come into power, they're never re-elected. Eventually, they themselves die out. We've just seen this in the Bangladeshi elections. So this is not an issue that, the West needs to worry about. But what they do need to worry about is the fact that, when you said, Sid, that, if you know that there's going to be fire, you go somewhere. They have nowhere to go because their neighbors are not helping them. So they need to pitch in and help broker a peace. I mean, this has got to stop, is what I'm saying. It doesn't matter what it takes, but the world has got to be. And let's not forget, Christine, the world is now a global village. Anything that happens in that part of the world impacts us, because this is something that can become really big. And so it's, instead of taking sides and constantly lumping blame, we need to find a way to broker peace right now so that more lives are not lost on either side. We've got to stop Hamas firing rockets into Israel, and we've got to stop Israel from bombing people where they're dying every day, every minute.
Real, I'm curious what you're going to say about this, because we're going back to the whole Sunni-Shiite dynamic again. You're looking at Iran here in Syria, who have been blamed in many reports, we see it in the media, for backing Hamas. Some are saying that the bigger threat is Iran, because these two are backing Hamas. But again, I know you don't like to take sides, because it's not necessarily about sides. It's part of that Mideast crisis dynamic. So you've got those two, okay? Syria and Iran on one side, and you've got Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Jordan on the other.
Yes.
And right in the middle, you've got the Palestinians, and of course, the Israelis right now, because they're in a separate position. So it's all about this maneuvering to win over sides, to keep one's property, whatever it is. But the point of the matter is the Palestinians are stuck in the middle, it would seem. And although people have made it out to be an Israeli-Palestinian conflict, it's much more than that.
It is much more than that.
And people need to understand that, because you get one person being blamed, one particular country. You want to comment on this?
Well, I think it's fair to say most of those countries would prefer that Israel be gone. And although they can't be as explicit about it as Hamas can, acting outside of a government.
Because you've got external partnerships, like Saudi Arabia and the States.
They just don't admit it. I mean, well, yeah, there they do, yes. But I mean, the partnerships between Hamas and Iran, so those won't be admitted, and that way other countries get to do have the Palestinian area take all of the accountability for the bombs that go in there. But actually, it's just a launching ground for many different states who would like to eliminate Israel. So no, it's a conflict that is. I think it's a mistake to think of it as a conflict of one religion versus a religion, or one people or race or whatever.
But they are in the mix. And that's unfortunate. It's a fact.
They are in the mix, and they do get affected in a big way outside of these areas.
Yes.
You see, again, if you ever see the demonstrations outside the Israeli consulate and when you see the Palestinians and the Israelis, you see that there is a lot of hate there, because these things tend to spill over into religion, into ethnicity, into,
and it's spilled over into QP. And we're going to hear about that shortly. But first, let's go to Mike on line 6. Hello, Mike. You're on the line.
Yes, good afternoon, people. I really enjoy the conversation that you're having there, for sure. Just to bring this back into some kind of historical perspective, we have to go back to the biblical roots of this whole thing, and that is the initial conflict between Esau and Jacob, and Esau turning around and blaming Jacob for defrauding him of the birthright of the firstborn. Unfortunately, these days, I don't believe from the Jewish people and the Muslims I've talked to that they even know how the fight began and what it's all about. But the bottom line is it's a spiritual conflict. When Esau married into Ishmael's side by marrying one of the daughters, then the spirit of...
Mike, thanks for your contribution. Let's go now to you, Gord, on line 4. Hello, Gord. You're on the line.
Hello. How are you?
Fine, thanks.
Yes, it seems like both sides made mistakes here. First of all, they should have, the Americans and Israel should have recognized Hamas as the elected government, and either Hamas would have to change their spots and go for prosperity for the people, or else give them enough rope to hang themselves. And also, the other Arab countries, instead of giving weapons, they should have gave humanitarian aid, and Egypt should have opened up its borders. And in prosperity, lots of time, usually people who are having a prosperous nation don't really usually want to go to war. And also, I want to...
Thanks for calling in. I appreciate the shoulds here. There's a lot of should.
Yes.
That should be happening. Thanks for your call. Before we go for a break, because we're due for one, I still want to touch on the subject matter about the Canadian Union of Public Employees. Everybody has an opinion, but this organization is calling for, in our country, a boycott of Israeli academics in Ontario universities. Your view on that one?
International attempt at a Holocaust. As far as I'm concerned, it was interesting. Sid Ryan likened the bombing of a university in Palestine to the burning of books by the Nazis. You know, he should read the other part about what the Nazis did, which is where they banned all Jewish speakers from universities, all Jewish professors. And this is exactly what Sid Ryan is calling upon. He wants anybody who takes the Israeli side not to be able to speak in a Canadian university.
Well, what he said explicitly is that if any Israeli academic has not explicitly condemned this retaliation that's going on in the Middle East, they need to be banned. My question for a person like Sid Ryan is, did he purport the same rule at 9/11 that all Islamic professors should be banned if they didn't explicitly condemn 9/11?
I believe that this is a knee-jerk reaction, and he really has gone too far, because academics, culture, and art should be totally beyond politicization. You know, I've always said, and I feel that a rocket fired from Palestine and a bomb thrown by Israel should not land in our universities' backyards. So very simply, this academics should have absolutely no part of this, and I think that this was said in anger, or he's apologized since then, but not for this.
He's apologized not for the proposed ban, but he's apologized for actually comparing the Jews to the Nazis. We want to hear your thoughts on the subject matter. Whatever's touching you about the Middle East, we want to hear about it. Don't go away. We'll return after this. Stay tuned. Hello again, and welcome back to Viewpoints on the Line. We're continuing to talk about the crisis in the Middle East, and we want to hear your thoughts on the matter. Right now, we're continuing to discuss about CUPE and its role in trying to propose, well, they have proposed it, a ban on all Israeli academics at Ontario universities. And the condition is, unless they explicitly come out and openly condemn Israel's actions in the Middle East. And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's outrageous. I mean, the pretext for this is that Israel bombed a university in the Palestine area. This was a university, though. The context is, this is a university that used to be funded by the communists, that, you know, prior to the fall of the Berlin Wall, that has, about a year and a half ago, was found to have been a storage depot for weaponry, found by the Palestinians, not by the Israelis, but by the Palestinians, to have been a storage place for weaponry. So, and it is the central point for not only postgraduate degrees in a lot of the kind of pro-Hamas stuff that we're seeing propagated around the world. The organizations that are supporting these bans on Israel are usually have nothing to do with Palestine. They usually are leftist, pro-union, collectivist groups who have decided that they can capitalize on racist or other tribalist tensions around the world, and because they can't, teach everybody what Karl Marx had to say about the proletariat and etc., they say, well, what's the next best thing we can do? Find any collective that's held together by their hatred of someone else, by their race, by their religion, and we'll put them together in the big brotherhood of collectivists. Sid Ryan and his CUPE members ought not to be doing anything outside the borders of Ontario. They're there to represent workers, not to be taking on international capitalism, which is exactly what he's trying to do by like Sinn Féin, like these other various groups around the world that are taking the Gaza side, trying to badmouth Israel, when they know that Israel is the one location in the whole Middle East that is pro-Western, pro-individual rights, life, liberty, property. It's a socialist state. It's a mixed economy. It's not my ideal state, but it's a far cry away from the collectivist daydream that Sid Ryan would like to have us all living under, where nobody's mind matters, no one's opinion matters. The government doles out, takes from the productive, gives out to each according to their political whims, where nobody's mind or opinion matters. That's absolutely disgraceful. And to capitalize upon this war by bringing it home, and by the way, of course, there's an election in which he's going to be running again, I presume, for president. And I can't help but believe that this group, and it's, as I understand, a subgroup of CUPE, it's only 1,000 members or so, but they have consistently elected him. They did the same thing in 2006 when he proposed, or someone in his group proposed, a boycott on Israel, even though Israel hardly sends any goods to Canada in the first place. It was largely symbolic. It's anti-Israeli, as far as I'm concerned. If we are supporting Sid Ryan, we're supporting Hamas. We're supporting the exact same anti-individualistic, frankly, anti-Jewish sentiments. I think it's disgraceful. And for anybody to be voting this guy in again, they're as guilty as anybody sitting in Palestine right now.
Okay, let's go to hear what you have to say now. Joseph on line 6. Hello, Joseph. You're on the line.
Yes, hi. Good afternoon. I'm happy to be here for the first time, and I don't really listen to news very much. I'm just off on my son's sickness because he just came out of hospital. I just want to say something quickly to Sid Ryan. What you've just said, and even though you apologize, it's already gone out. I think you should pack your suitcase, buddy. Fly. I got a plane ticket for you. You could fly right there to Lebanon and join the Hamad people and fight against Israel, because what you just said is stupid. It just came out from your gut, and you can't apologize for that already, because it's gone out there and it's in people's head already, and you're gone. You forget it.
Joseph, thank you for calling in. I realize how you feel about that particular statement made by Sid Ryan, but the major concern here, and I'd like your opinion too, when you look at our economy, we've got enough to deal with here in Canada. When you look at CUPE, the Canadian Union of Public Employees, facing an economic downturn, I just thought his hands would be full when it comes to dealing with the issues here.
You've got York University with professors
it's horrible.
Students are being
ripped off. And what about the students who paid their
Yeah.
money for tuition? I mean, these are major concerns.
Christine, at a time like this, one of the other reasons I'll say it's time for us to put on our Canadian caps. It's time for us to stand up as Canadians and say that this kind of posturing is not a Canadian, it's not something that we do as Canadians. We have an obligation, a moral and ethical obligation as one of the Western powers to show compassion, to talk about justice and truth, and to make remarks like he has done puts us actually in a very awkward position. So I would say that we don't have grounds here as Canadians. If at all we can do something, we can broker peace. I know it sounds like a tired record, but go back. If a half-naked man with a stick in India can bring peace, and we have had Nelson Mandela's and Martin Luther King's, certainly peace can be brokered if both sides want it.
Yes. Well, Joseph, thanks for that call and what you said there. Very positive note. We're going to go for a break now. We'll return after this. Stay tuned.